Gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's July the 7th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And Matt, I thought we'd start today with our State of the U series, which continues today with our look at where the Miami Hurricanes stand in the college football landscape. And man, that's a topic that's probably changing by the day. I know Miami has not played a football game, obviously, yet in 2022, but certainly the stature of the Canes is on the rise. The top level of recruiting over the past few weeks can certainly contribute to that. And I'm sensing that there's a perception of the Miami program around the country that's moving more in the direction where I think they would prefer it to be and where it needs to go and where it seems to be headed.
Geez, that's how you leave me off? I got to talk after that? I mean, what kind of enigmatic paragraph was that you just spewed?
Bring it. Just bring it.
All right, listen. The State of the U is strong / not strong. Next question.
Please elaborate.
It really is. They have some things that are great and they have some things that are bad. And the bad stuff is a lot of it's left over, whether you want to call it, whether you want to refer to some of the past players who haven't panned out and left the program and left holes in the roster, some of the guys who are on the current team that probably aren't all that good in terms of being national caliber guys. The development hasn't been great over the last few years. I don't think a lot of people would argue with that. But on the positive side, and the locker room culture has to change to some extent also. But on the positive side, the locker room change, is happening. The weight staff, the strength staff seems to be on top of everything. Recruiting is just off the chain, which we pretty much knew it would be with Mario Cristobal. The only question mark I had was if John Ruiz would pay the bills. He is paying the bills, so everything looks amazing in recruiting. Which you draw this line. And I know fans want to draw the line here that this is where the change happens and this is the season where Miami's going to be a national championship contender. I'm here to tell you that I'm a pessimist. That's just how I am naturally, and that's how I see it. I'm not going to lie. I just don't think this team's a national caliber team right now to be in a playoff. I do think they will be, as I've been saying consistently, in 2 to 4 years, this will be a playoff caliber team. Now, in a weak Coastal, can Miami reach the ACC title game? Yes. Clemson's going to have one of the top 2 or 3 defenses in the country. Is that a problem for Miami when they play Clemson? Yes.
Especially on the road.
Clemson also will be better on offense because they can't be any worse on offense. Yeah, that's on the road. And if it's an ACC title game, it'll be at a neutral field, so to speak, even though it's not really neutral. So there's a lot working against Miami this year. So if you want to look at the State of the U and say it's the State of the U for this year, I'd say the State of the U, like I said at the beginning, is not great. If you want to look at the State of the U for 2 to 4 years from now, the State of the U is great, which is why I began with, I said the State of the U is great / not great. Now I explained it. I probably didn't have to. People probably already knew what I meant. You probably didn't, but other people did. And right. We'll go from there.
All right, so we've got that on the website today, and each day moving forward, you're going to see the continuation of our State of the U series and looking at every aspect of the Miami program, looking at the recruiting classes that make up this football team that will be on the field here. Really, coming up about 7 weeks, man. It's coming fast. So, I think you guys will continue to find that really interesting. But we have so much more on the website today, so let me jump into it. We've got part 3 of our interview with Dan Radakovich coming up today, and we keep exploring all the different topics that are pertinent to Miami football. Today we talk about Mario Cristobal a little bit and Dan's impressions of Mario, his work ethic, and what he's observed in their time working together. we've also got the continuation of our Player Performance Index series. Today, Matt, we take a look at number 25, Brashard Smith. And Brashard Smith, to me, is an interesting player as we look forward to the season. We've seen in brief flashes what he is capable of doing, but he didn't get a ton of opportunity last year, and he certainly didn't sustain anything last year. And I don't really know what to expect from Brashard Smith this season. Your thoughts?
Brashard Smith is the state of the Canes. Brashard Smith is great / not great. He has moments of greatness, and he has moments where you're like, how did he drop that 5-yard pass that was, had no momentum on it anyway, right in his hands, I mean, so it's all about consistency. It's all about upping the level of play for him. He's got all the tools. I think he'll be a great returner. I do not want to see him become a Devin Hester type where he's got all this explosiveness, but he just can't really find a role because they used him at running back and receiver last year. Can he find a niche at both, at either? I don't know. There was a point this spring where Mario Cristobal said how much progress Brashard Smith had made. And then the next practice, he looked terrible. So it's at some point, he's a young player. At some point, it clicks. And you got to hope, for Miami's sake, that it clicks sooner rather than later because Gary Ferman's freaking out about the wide receivers.
Freaking out. Listen, I like Brashard Smith. He's, a nice kid and a decent player, whatever. He's not moving the needle on what's freaking me out, which is the lack of a number one receiver. And I don't care how much. Number one, he's going to be splitting reps with Restrepo quite a bit. I don't see this being a bust out season for him. I think he'll get some opportunities like he did last year, but I think Restrepo is going to be the go-to guy in the slot. And I think Xavier has earned that on the practice field. And I see Brashard Smith being more of like a specialist who gets opportunities on occasion, probably kind of similar to what he did last year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long you want to talk about him for, but
for an hour. People like long shows. Let's keep going. What else you got to say about Brashard Smith?
He's going to be behind Xavier Restrepo in the slot. He's going to be behind 3 players at running back who are all sort of similar. 2 of them are similar, smaller, fast guys. So, my projection is he'll be a backup. My projection is, 300-400 yards receiving, a couple of touchdowns, and I think his biggest impact will be his returns.
All right, a lot of recruiting stuff on the website this morning, Matt. So I want to get to that right now. But first, I thought, let's hear from our friends at LifeWallet.
911, what's your emergency?
When you're injured or suffering a medical emergency.
My name, Gilbert First. My image, right before you. Like me now. My life depends on it.
LifeWallet. Saving time, saving lives.
We hadn't heard from Gilbert in a while, so I figured, let's give Gilbert some love and make him today's LifeWallet commercial. All right, Matt, let's talk recruiting. We have a story on Shodell Aguero, who says the Miami Hurricanes are right in it with a July 23rd decision date looming. And Matt, this is a guy, a defensive back recruit that I know that they want very badly. Your impressions on where things stand with Shodell Aguero?
Yeah, before I talked to him, I really didn't think that Miami was in this very much. But you could hear his passion for Miami just talking to him, as much as passion can come through over the phone from doing interviews for the last 20 years. I mean, he something about Miami is stuck in his craw. That's an expression for you, Gary, from back in the 1920s when you were a 30-year-old. And I think there's every chance he could pick Miami. Maybe somebody asked me the chances with him a while back, perhaps on some previous network that barely exists anymore. And I think I said 50-50. And I think that holds, maybe 51-49. I mean, with a lot of these kids, it seems like they want to become Hurricanes. And the only thing that's really holding them back is either NIL offers from other places illegally, or influences. These are all out-of-state kids, right? So sometimes families don't want their child to go too far. They want to watch them play or be able to drive to see games, things like that. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Miami's got every chance in the world with Janelle, I think.
All right, another recruiting-related story on the website today. We've been talking to some of the area high school coaches and getting their impressions of how Miami's doing and where things stand now at this point of Mario Cristobal's development of the program. And today we visit with my Miami Palmetto High coach, Mike Manasco, Brashard Smith's high school coach. And he talks to us a little bit about what he's seeing somewhat through the eyes of Brashard Smith, Leonard Taylor, and I think you guys will find that interesting as well. And I've
don't forget, are we having a Mark Fletcher story? Are we doing a Mark Fletcher story too?
Yeah, I was gonna.
Well, we're doing recruiting now. You're flipping around. Okay.
No, I'm not. We're still on recruiting.
I did just talk to Mark Fletcher yesterday and just typed it up. So
Mark Fletcher is another.
Maybe it's not worth discussing, Gary. Maybe you just think,
it's not as optimistic for everybody as some of these other stories. But we'll talk about that right now. Mark Fletcher's committed to Ohio State, and Matt did check in with him yesterday just to see, hey, what's up? We try to do that and keep in touch with the top guys. And Matt, why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about that conversation?
Mark Fletcher is one of my favorite people. If he winds up at Ohio State, I would be very upset if any Miami fans has anything negative about him. Seriously, he's a kid you root for no matter where he goes. Some of these recruits, wishy-washy, flippy-floppy, whatever words you want to say. I don't know. But, not that I'd ever say you should ever say anything negative to a recruit anyway, wherever they go. But in particular with Mark Fletcher, leave him alone, man. If he winds up at Ohio State, it is what it is. His heart's in Miami. That's really the story. His heart is in Miami. He's a Miami Hurricanes fan. His dad's a big fan. He would love to play for Miami. And it became very clear to me talking to him yesterday that at least publicly, he's solidly committed to Ohio State. He has no plans to take any other visits. Is there wiggle room for Miami? Absolutely. Absolutely. He's talking to Miami coaches. They're not just being nice to him thinking, okay, good luck at Ohio State. We just want to be your friend for when you're famous. You might sign an autograph for me, 20 years from now and I could sell it on eBay. No, they want to have that relationship in place. And really what Mark said is at first he said a lot will hinge on what happens at Ohio State. So if their running game falls apart, which won't happen, or if a coach leaves, offensive coordinator, running backs coach leaves, maybe even an offensive line coach, that could shake things up a little bit. But the issue there is a lot of these coaches aren't going to leave, until after the signing period. That's what happens. So that's a long shot too. So really both those avenues point Ohio State's direction regardless. The third thing, which came up later in the conversation, we talked for a while, was, and this is really how Miami can wiggle in, he will be paying very close attention to Josh Gaddis's offense, and if this will be more of a power run game, and if it's more successful. Can anybody out there blame one of the nation's top running backs for not wanting to be a Hurricane right now based on what they've seen the last, 20 years running the ball at Miami? Not 20, but, last 4 or 5 years where he's really been paying attention. Running the ball at Miami, these are not great offense.
Duke, man. Duke had a couple decent years.
Yeah, but Duke's a different kind of receiver. But
running back.
Oh, sorry, smaller type of running back. Yeah, receiving back. Mark Fletcher's a between the tackles power guy who also has outside speed. He's got everything, but he's very much a power back in addition to his other skill sets. Miami has not been a power running team even with Duke Johnson. Okay, the offensive lines have not been that good. They haven't been an offensive line that just bullies defensive lines. They've been finesse, a lot of pulling, a lot of getting blown into the backfield. And that's going to change under Mario Cristobal, because if it doesn't change, Mario Cristobal will probably suit up himself and go out on the field and make sure it changes. So it has to change. I expect nothing less under Mario and Alex Mirabal. They coach power offensive line. They don't coach finesse. This is not about just stand your ground and hope the other guy falls down on his face. This is you attack, you push that guy backwards, and you create room for your running back. And that running back in their system that they really, really want is a big, powerful, fast back named Mark Fletcher. Not a small, speedy guy named Jalen Knight, and not a small, speedy guy named Henry Parrish. Those guys are great, but they're great for zone runs. They're great for receiving backs. Not great for between the tackles. I know those of you out there are going to say, oh, I'm wrong, and what a moron, and blah, blah, blah. Look at their yards after contact the last couple of years, and then look at some of these bigger backs on some of these other major programs, including Oregon, by the way. You can look at Oregon's big back, what he averaged yards after contact, okay? Huge difference. I don't have the numbers in front of me, or I'd spew them out. You know me, Gary. I'm a numbers guy. So anyway, so Miami needs Mark Fletcher, okay? They need Mark Fletcher, and I still think that there's a chance. I put in God forbid I put in a 20%, confidence rate that it'll flip to Miami. God forbid, everyone took that and ran with it. Apparently it became some sort of Bleacher
That's what you put.
I don't even know.
That's what you put in the recruiting prediction machine.
I certainly
20% chance that he flips.
You didn't see it? 20%. Yeah. What's so funny?
And the machine took that.
The machine took that and ran with it and sent it to Bleacher Report apparently, and Bleacher Report ran with it, and it became a whole national thing. And I
what is 20%? Like, why?
That's what I said to Mark. I said, Mark, listen. We moved to On3 on July 1st, and I put in a bunch of predictions right away, including one I've been saying for a while, which is that you're going to flip to Miami, but I put it at 20%. And I said, I hope it didn't cause any problems for you, because I know Ohio State, just like with Nathaniel Joseph communicating with him about Clemson, same thing with Mark. I know with Mark, because Mark and I have a great relationship. I know with him, Ohio State's on his butt, no visits. You can't do anything with any other schools, unofficially or officially, period. That's it. You're committed. You're done with the process, okay? I know that with Mark, and I understand that, and he understands that, and he's not looking to upset the apple cart right now, okay? So I forget where I was going with this, but bottom line is I put in the 20%. So the first thing I said to Mark was, listen, I hope I didn't cause any problems for you. I said, I know some other outlets took it and ran with it, but I said, I was putting in a million different predictions because we just moved sites, and I put in 20%, like a 20% confidence score that you'll wind up at Miami. And he says, I don't pay any attention to that. Don't worry about it. So I was like, okay. We moved along. So I guess Ohio State didn't complain to him, or if Ohio State did complain to him, he was nice enough not to yell at me.
All right. Well,
by the way, I asked him his confidence score in flipping to Miami. You know what he said?
What did he say?
No, I didn't ask him that. I was scared. If I asked him that, I figured I'll never talk. If I asked him that, he'd never talk to me again.
Well, I agree with you. And I agree with you. I do think that there's a chance that Mark Fletcher comes to Miami. I'll put it at 30%. I'll even go a little higher than 20%.
Now you're on Bleacher Report. Good luck to you, man.
Bleacher Report. That's whatever. But not whatever. But I do think that there's I'm not going to say decent chance yet, but I do think there's a chance, because as Miami keeps stacking these big, strong offensive linemen, that's got to make it more appealing to come to Miami for a big power back like Mark Fletcher. And, you noted that, if all things are equal, Miami probably would have gotten his commitment. I thought he rushed a little bit into the Ohio State thing, but they're effective with their recruiting as well. So I think that this is one that's not going to happen quickly. I think we're going to have to keep following it as it goes forward. I think, like Matt said, Josh Gaddis is going to have to prove how he uses the running backs. I do think that Miami's going to run an offense very similar to what Josh Gaddis ran at Michigan, which featured a couple backs, and they had pretty good success. And we'll see what happens. But this is one we'll probably have to follow into December. But I expect Mark Fletcher to make some appearances at Miami games this year, and we'll see what happens there. All right. So there was one more thing that I wanted to talk about today, and that is a column that I wrote yesterday about the keys to keeping things together for the ACC and Miami. And we posted it on the site yesterday afternoon. It's there today as well. And it's an interesting topic, Matt, because everybody's considered, is Miami going to the SEC? Is Miami going to the Big Ten? I'm not sure Miami is looking to go anywhere right now. I think that when you look at the commitments that everybody made to the ACC, I think if they stick together, that the ACC has a chance to be the third super conference. Now, is it going to be number 1, SEC? Probably not. Is it going to be number 2, Big Ten? Probably not. But can it be number 3 in the pecking order around the country? Yes. And if you put a school like Notre Dame into the ACC, Matt, that number 3 ACC doesn't look so terrible.
I mean, listen.
What
Notre
are
Dame
you going to say now? Go ahead.
I mean, I'm not sure. Like you okay? So I don't understand, and you could explain it to me. So the ACC signed a TV contract. They have a TV deal. They make a certain amount of money.
That they
and
share. It's terrible. It's one of the worst in college
I understand
football.
that. I understand that. They share it between the conference teams.
They screwed it up.
Other conferences have more money. So let's say the Notre Dame joins the ACC. Does the ACC automatically all of a sudden get to renegotiate the TV deal they already signed? No, they don't. Because they signed the deal as a conference, not as a team-by-team basis. So I don't understand why Notre Dame would rush into, or not rush into, but why would Notre Dame go to the ACC and make less money? Like, I don't understand. You can explain it to me. Why would they do that?
Well, they're not going to make less money. If
they make more money now as an independent than they would joining the ACC.
No, but they really don't.
Contract.
They don't make significantly more than what the ACC teams make. And if Notre Dame goes into the ACC will have leverage with ESPN. And from what I'm hearing, ESPN is part of these discussions. ESPN will be able to raise the amount of money that it pays the ACC, and they'll be able to renegotiate the contract. ESPN has a responsibility here, in my opinion, to the ACC because of how much that they're giving the SEC, and they're creating this massive disparity in college football that is like terrible.
They don't care. They just make money. That's all
I understand. They're ruining college football, Matt. They're ruining college football.
They're responsible to their Disney shareholders. They don't just give money away. Oh, okay, here's more money. Forget the contract. We'll just give you some more money.
If Notre Dame goes into the ACC, the value of all those broadcasts goes up significantly, and they can make more money, and therefore they can renegotiate the contract and pay more money. But from what I could see, man, like these people are ruining college football. I mean, you can't just have two.
That's the story, Gary. That's the story. What you just said.
They're ruining college football.
Disney's
you can't
not
have
give money
everybody
away
in the same conference. It's ridiculous.
I agree with you. They're ruining college football.
I mean, how do you have all?
That's all I agree with you on.
How do you have look at the SEC? I mean, how do you have Alabama and Georgia and Texas and Oklahoma and all in the same conference? And what about Vanderbilt? Like, how long they can't stay in that conference? How about even schools like Ole Miss, Mississippi State? I think that those schools become candidates to go into this new super conference ACC and balance things out a little bit.
Here's what I think should happen for college football. I think they should do away with conference championship games because let's face it, there's going to be just like with companies, these conferences are going to merge. It's just going to happen. There'll be fewer and fewer conferences, and as that happens, how do you decide, which 4 teams get to go? There's going to be a team that's number 3 in some conference that's better than the best team in another conference.
How about conference championship games? I mean,
what they need to do is do away with conference championship games and expand the playoff. Take that extra week and the week after it and get a couple more weekends in and do a 16-team playoff. Because let's face it, there's going to be a lot of teams. There's just no interest from that fan base once they've lost a couple of games over the first 8 or 10 games of the season. And no one's going to be showing up and blah, 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 blah. And, in the past, it was like, okay, we could still win a conference title. We could go to a great bowl game. Now it's just a fixation with all these top teams and with NIL is playoffs. If they do not expand the playoffs to 16 teams, this will be a failed venture. And the good news for Miami is they're going to be a top 4 team in the next few years. So it's not going to matter for us, but for college football, it's not going to matter.
But are they a top 4 team, Matt? And somebody was talking about this on the message board yesterday. Why is Gary so in favor of Miami staying in an ACC? And if you're playing all those teams in the SEC every year, the road to get there gets a lot tougher. And the expanded playoff is going to happen. That's inevitable. There's no doubt.
To do it, you got to do away with conference championships. You need that weekend. I'm telling you, you need that.
Weekend. I understand, but I mean, it's inevitable. They're gonna expand the playoff. But to me, Miami's path to greatness in football is on a regular basis is much better in a souped up ACC that would include, say, like a Notre Dame, plus the teams that are there now, then it would be becoming yet another team in the SEC and having to butt heads with all those programs, the top programs in college football every single year to get into the top 3 or 4 to make the playoff.
Did you not watch the Jimmy Johnson documentary? Every other week they're playing Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Florida, whoever. Like
Different
that's how
world,
Miami
man.
was built. There's
Different
nothing
world,
wrong with
different time. Different
well,
time.
if you're the best, you play the best. I think Miami fans still agree with that. Maybe the new mantra for Miami fans is play the worst and make the playoffs. That seems to be your take on it. So who am I to argue with Gary Ferman? Play the worst teams and make the playoffs. Gary Ferman.
I'm thinking reality. I mean, you know, money is important, but
that was tongue in cheek a little bit. By the way,
I'll take 25 million a year less. I'll take 75 million a team instead of 100 million a team to have a more level playing field when it comes to qualifying for the postseason and getting into championship games and things like that. Than sitting there butting heads with 8 other major powers in college football just to get into the top 4 of my conference so that maybe I can get invited to the playoff if they go that deep. I mean,
there is something to be said for if you win out in a weak conference. Who was it? Cincinnati. You could just see you win out in a weak conference. You win all your games. You're not ready to play top teams. You're not prepared. It's like picture Miami just playing a bunch.
I'm not saying the ACC should be watered down. It's good if you go.
The ACC already is watered down. The ACC has one other national team, and that's it.
That's right. But
that's watered down.
But what if Florida State comes back? What if North Carolina keeps getting better?
What if What
if you bring in Notre Dame? And then what if you go get one other decent school? What if you get an Ole Miss to defect from the SEC into the ACC, for example?
What if? What I'm saying is
now you have 6 good teams. Like, that's not enough?
That's fine, but that's all what ifs. I'm saying right now, if things are the status quo and you fast forward 2 or 3 years into the future, is Miami going to be ready to play Alabama or Texas A&M in a national title game or a playoff if they've only played, and maybe not even Clemson that year? If they only played a bunch of ACC teams,
out of conference,
and maybe one good out of conference game, because that's all they schedule is one out of conference that's really good a year.
They'll be okay. They would be ready.
I think they'll be more ready with with an SEC.
You think they're more ready if they're 8-4 and in 5th place in the SEC, begging?
Listen.
Oh, hey, we were in the SEC. The SEC should get 6 of the 12 spots in the playoff, and go in as a middle of the pack SEC.
What? You don't deserve to be in the playoffs if you can't play with Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State anyway. I don't understand. Who wants to take the easy road and then be like Cincinnati and get blown out? That's not me, man. Put Miami in a conference where they have to beat really good teams that have to beat you also, and then you can say.
Just remember how many national titles Miami won as a member of the Big East.
Yeah, I remember.
And take a look at the path they had to take to get there. When they had to get to the big game, they were ready for the big game.
They were, but remember back then, all the non-conference games. And by the way, there was more non-conference games back then, but they were all against really good teams back then. Now they play FAMU, Central Connecticut State, whoever. 3 of their 4 non-conference games are nonsense. In Big East, they'd play big-name teams every out-of-conference game. I understand there was Temple and whoever else, joke teams in the Big East. I understand. I covered the team at that time. But the non-conference schedule was way stronger than it is now. And guess what? The ACC Coastal is basically the Big East. I mean, it's a weak division. Just like the Big East had no other real teams. Like Virginia Tech, once in a blue moon, every 4 years, Virginia Tech was as good as Miami or close to them. BC, once every 8 years, was a really good team, But the Coastal is no different than the Big East to me.
If they really want to do good things for college football, get rid of the garbage football games. I mean, teams don't need more than, you don't need more than one of those. It's a joke.
Yeah, the first game of the year is an easy one. After that, Miami should be playing all tough games, period.
Yeah, I agree.
Other than whoever they have to play in the conference.
Yeah, there's no reason to play those garbage games. All right, that's going to do it for today. If you like this show, I'm gonna do one of our little plugs here. Hit your like button, hit your subscribe button. Help us grow our YouTube channel so that we can keep doing more of this content for you guys. We thank you so much for making us part of your morning once again. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.